In the high-speed world of endurance racing and touring car series, Mark Porter was a rising star. With multiple podium finishes in V8 Supercar development series and praiseworthy performances in Bathurst 1000, Mark was a force to be reckoned with. However, on October 6, 2006, during the secondary race on the Bathurst event schedule, when he was inches away from the finish line, something went terribly wrong. Join us as we remember the life of Mark Porter and uncover the details of his final drive. Mark Robert Porter, affectionately known throughout his life and racing paddock by his nickname Didley, was born on October 2, 1974, in the city of Hamilton, located in the Waikato region of New Zealand's North Island. Growing up in a region deeply connected to agricultural commerce and local industry, Porter developed a strong work ethic early on alongside his brother, Andrew. The brothers shared a deep natural fascination with mechanical machinery and higher horsepower vehicles from a young age. Moreover, he grew up during the years of Peter Brock's dominance in Australian motorsport, where he used to watch the legendary Hawk conquer Bathurst while sitting in the stands with his family. And somewhere in those childhood memories, the seed of racing was planted that would eventually define his entire life. As he grew older, Porter successfully established and managed commercial ventures while steadily working his way through the competitive ranks of local regional motorsport. Racing Mazda RX-7s in the humble backroads of his native New Zealand, he learned the fundamentals of car control and developed a respect for the fine line between apex and disaster. And in 2002, he officially started his V8 Supercar career in South Wales, where he made his debut in a Ford Falcon at Wakefield Park. That same year, he also raced in the famous Bathurst 1000 race for the first time, driving for Paul Wheel Racing in a Ford Falcon AU alongside co-driver Jeff Full. But unfortunately, their race ended in disappointment when they didn't finish after completing 93 laps. Despite the setback, his career continued to gain momentum, and in 2003, Porter joined Team Kiwi Racing, driving a Holden Commodore VX alongside fellow New Zealander Craig Baird, who would become one of his closest friends. That year, they finished 17th at Bathurst after completing 149 laps, which proved that Mark was slowly building the experience needed to compete with the best. He continued his pace in 2004, producing the strongest season of his career to that point by finishing third overall in the Konica Minolta V8 Supercar series. Porter campaigned the number 111 yellow Holden VZ Commodore, and this was the car that would become his signature machine. In 2005, Porter returned to Team Kiwi Racing, once again teaming up with Craig Baird, and this switch turned in his favor as they finished 11th at Bathurst after completing a full race distance that year, showing that Porter had learned from his earlier disappointments and had grown into a driver who could finish races and compete for strong results. Away from the racing, Mark was known for his cheerful yet funny personality. In fact, his co-workers once shared that during a team meeting before the 2005 Bathurst round, Porter spent 20 minutes arguing with the crew chief about the color of the helmet decals, insisting that the yellow should be slightly brighter to match the number 111 on his car. And when the crew chief finally said, "Mark, nobody's gonna see that from the track," Porter looked at him with a serious expression and said, "Well, I'm gonna see it, and if I can't see it, I'm not gonna know which car I'm in." So by 2006, Porter was having a great season, again sitting third in the championship point standings, where he had just secured a race victory in Queensland Raceway. He was hoping for a big breakthrough in 2006, but sadly in a few weeks, his life would take a devastating turn. On that fateful day, Friday, October 6, 2006, Mark Porter, a highly respected driver and a successful businessman, was pulling double duty at Mount Panorama. He was competing in the second-tier Fujitsu V8 Supercar development series, and he was behind the wheel of a Hyundai Hydrolink-sponsored Holden VZ Commodore for the M Sport racing team. Moreover, because of his strong form in the Fujitsu series, he caught the attention of one of the top teams, Brad Jones Racing. And not wasting any time prior to the event, he was hired as a co-driver for the number 14 premium entry to share the car with Dale Breed, who happened to be another New Zealander like Mark. It was supposed to be the one-off gig that would take place on Sunday, October 8th, but tragically, Mark would never make it to that race day, and not for the reason anyone could have imagined. At around 2 p.m. local time, the support event kicked off at Bathurst, New Wales, with the grind rolling out for a 14-lap development race as riders navigated the Mount Panorama circuit, which was known for narrow racing lines and poor visibility. There was a semi-dry racing line, but as the cars reached the final sequence of corners near the top of the mountain at Reed Park, the track presented a blind spot that oncoming drivers couldn't see until it was far too late. Mark, aka Didley, when entering the section at the speed of 120 miles, encountered a minor loss of control. He clipped the retaining wall at the corner exit and his car spun sideways, stalling in the middle of the track with the driver's side facing directly toward oncoming traffic. For the first few moments, a combination of sharp reflexes and pure luck allowed a handful of oncoming cars to swerve and narrowly evade Porter's stalled vehicle. However, the margins for error at Reed Park are practically non-existent. Another driver, Chris Alejian, who was among the next wave of racers, arrived at the blind crest carrying significant speed and with very little time to react. Though he attempted an evasive maneuver, his car clipped the tail end of Porter's stationary Holden, further shifting its position on the track, but failing to clear the hazard. And though Porter was alive at the moment of impact, his car was immobilized and needed to be recovered. The standard procedure was followed where track marshals were dispatched to clear debris and assist in the recovery operations. Seconds after Mark's initial impact at 120 miles an hour, double-wave yellow flags were displayed, indicating that drivers must reduce speed and be prepared to stop if necessary. David Clark, who was approaching the same pitch of the track moments after Porter's incident, was shown the double yellow flags because Porter's car was still being recovered on the racing line. For reasons that remain partially unclear, Clark did not slow down sufficiently under the yellow flags, traveling at approximately 124 miles an hour as he crested the blind hill. It became clear that an accident was highly likely from this point, but there was still a chance to avoid it or perhaps reduce its severity. As Clark approached Porter's standard Commodore, he threw his Ford Falcon sideways in a desperate attempt to avoid the collision. But by that point, physics had already taken over. In the brief moments between seeing the obstruction and reaching it, there was technically still a chance to avoid the crash. However, the combination of the blind crest, limited visibility, and the speed of the approaching cars left almost no room for recovery. Clark attempted to brake, but the weight of the Falcon and the momentum at 124 miles an hour made stopping impossible. Clark's car veered off its intended path and collided violently with the driver's side door of Porter's vehicle, the impact occurring at the exact moment when Porter was most vulnerable and stuck inside a machine that became a death trap. The collision was so devastating that it caused substantial damage to Porter's composite frame car, crushing the side of the vehicle and exposing Porter's body to the full force of the 124-mile-an-hour impact. The magnitude of the blow and its glancing nature caused a massive head and chest trauma, leading to severe injuries that turned out to be fatal. As seconds passed, Porter was unconscious and unresponsive to communications via both team radio and marshals, and soon it became clear that something had gone terribly wrong. He received immediate attention at the crash site, but because of the severity of his injuries, the paramedics decided to rule out the immediate helicopter transport. And after several grueling minutes, under the watchful eyes of the medical personnel and track officials, Porter was immediately transported by ambulance to the Bathurst base hospital for further treatment. His condition was critical from the moment he arrived, with massive head and chest injuries, as well as extensive fractures from the force of the impact that had crushed the side of his car. By late afternoon, he was airlifted to Royal Prince Alfred Hospital in Sydney, where surgeons prepared for the battle to save his life. The news spread through the paddock like wildfire, and by evening, the entire motorsport community was holding its breath, waiting for word that would never come the way they hoped. The neurosurgeons worked tirelessly, monitoring his condition as they reduced the medicine keeping him in a medically induced coma, watching to see how his body responded. But the deterioration was inevitable. By Sunday morning, Porter showed clear signs of irreversible damage, his condition worsening with each passing hour. He was in shock, and that shock deepened until he stopped responding entirely, slipping into cardiac and respiratory failure. On Sunday, October 8, 2006, at approximately 5 p.m. local time, just 2 hours after the Bathurst 1000 concluded, Mark Porter was pronounced dead at the age of 31. The news sent shockwaves through the V8 Supercar community, a grief that felt personal to everyone who had ever shared a paddock with him. Porter's tragic death raised a series of uncomfortable questions within the V8 Supercar community about safety standards at support races and the blind spots on Mount Panorama that could turn a minor mistake into a fatal one. There was growing concern that the design of certain sections of the circuit, particularly Reed Park on the climb up the mountain, might be part of the problem. Following his tragic passing, a solemn and deeply emotional funeral service was held for Mark on Friday, October 13th, 2006, at the Waikato Cathedral Church of St. Peter in his hometown of Hamilton, New Zealand. The service drew a massive crowd of grieving family members, close friends from the Australian motorsport community who gathered to honor the talented racer and successful businessman. In the years following the incident, his close friend and racing team owner, Paul Cruikshank, honored his memory by running the number 111 on his V8 Supercar entries until his team ceased operations in 2009. In his native New Zealand, the prestigious Mark Porter Trophy was established and awarded annually to the winners of the Hamilton 400 street race until 2012. As we look back on the life and legacy of Mark Porter, we remember not just a phenomenal racer, but a man whose passion and determination reshaped the world of V8 supercar racing. He had a great life, he enjoyed it to the fullest, and I don't think there were many days where you didn't see him smiling. The motorsport community was coming together to remember Peter Brock at the 2006 Super Cheap Auto Bathurst 1000, only to be left reeling after losing yet another driver at the event. Many couldn't argue but to say that motorsport is cruel, where the line between glory and tragedy is as thin as a tire's tread. But Mark knew the risks, and he still raced and always gave his best. The number 111 lives on, the Mark Porter Trophy lives on, and the memory of Didley lives on in every driver who pushes the limit, knowing that somewhere up on that mountain, the Kiwi who made it his own is watching, still smiling, still racing, and still immortal.